Hi, everyone. Friday, December 23rd. It is a flight plan Friday. So the game was already played last night. No game this coming weekend. Welcome to NYJ Ground Crew. I'm your host and crew chief, A.M. Pfeffer. Joining me as always, reporting from Jets Universe, Johnny Jets.
Hello, Jets Universe.
And as you can see on the screen, we have a very special guest with us today. A good time to have him on. Italy Jet, welcome to the program.
Thank you, man. An honor to be here on a Friday after we lost yesterday.
No doubt. So you have your own podcast as well, at Everything NYJ. We're going to talk about that, certainly. You are a man about town, doing a lot of football, a lot of soccer content. You've got, I think at last count, 93 streams going every week. Across
Something
the board.
like that. Something like that.
No, tell us where you're at. What are you working on these days?
Man, so I'm on Italy Jet and all social media platforms. I have a co-host. Me and Liam do Everything NYJ about 4 times a week, sometimes 5. And then I do soccer content for Let's Talk Sports and Jets content for Let's Talk Sports. It's based out in London. And then I'm on the NR Hour sometimes. They have a lot of big guests all the way around athletes, every single sport. And then I'm still in a couple new things I'm going to do with Jets content in next year and this year. But I have a lot of shows. I'm always on people's stuff or they're on my stuff. I love collabing with people. I think it brings everybody together and brings up everybody's content. And yeah, it's awesome. 9 to 15 shows a week.
Phenomenal, man. And why the moniker, by the way? Italy Jet. That's a very specific one.
Yeah. First off, it was just catchy. I really wanted a good name in there, and I'm Italian. I love being Italian, and then the Jets. So Italy Jet just came up with it. My wife was like, it should have been Italian Jet. I'm like, no, Italy Jet just sounds better.
But I love. And by the way, I love your logo. I mean, you can see it on the background there on your wall.
Thanks, man.
Just gesticulating, letting
yeah. And I had to do the sauce thing, I had to do the sauce thing.
You're coming correct today, and we appreciate it. I can see Johnny's face; he's definitely appreciating it. Johnny, how are you feeling today, man? I mean, the season not yet over. Obviously, we still got 3 games to go, and I think you're going to break down for us where we are in the playoff hunt because, well, believe it or not, we're still alive. But how you feeling after last night's game?
I feel pretty good, actually. The Zach Wilson Jets era is over. Whether he's Zach dead walking or not, that we'll find that out when the starting quarterback is announced against the Seahawks a week from Sunday. If it's a healthy Mike White, then we'll know that Zach is done. If it's Zach Wilson, then we'll know that Zach still lives. But I think we saw on the football field yesterday just all the life out of the Zach Wilson Jets go right out of them completely. I think right now it's more not what do we have in a quarterback with Zach Wilson, it's what do we have in a coach in Robert Saleh. To your point, yes, there's still a path for the Jets to make the playoffs this year. Definitely going to need some help, but the number one thing that's going to need to happen for the Jets to make the playoffs is Zach Wilson not play anymore for the Jets. So if Robert Saleh either unilaterally or collectively with Joe Douglas and the Johnson brothers makes the decision to not start Zach Wilson against the Seahawks, and then Robert Saleh can then lead the Jets to victory over the Seahawks and then the Dolphins, then we'll see that we potentially do have a head coach. If the team is nonetheless deflated and plays anything like it did yesterday without heart, giving up, really just not even caring a lot of the game, then it's in my mind, it's time to call Sean Payton and ask him to write a number on a napkin.
IJ, Italy Jet, how are we feeling? You agree with this or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling people that if we would have been healthy, right? If Hall didn't go down, AVT didn't go down, this would have been a different season. But also, if we still kept the course and Mike White was in there from the beginning, we would have won almost every single game and maybe have lost 2 or 3 times just with luck, right?
You're saying a 15-2, 14-3 season would have been on the table, Mike White at the helm.
It's the way he produced with the Bears and the way he's done it last year. I know his last 2 games weren't that great like last year because he had that one good game. But this year, we had that team. They're way beyond the rebuild. Like they were early with this rebuild, and it came really good. Like this year, it just came really good. Sauce, a lot of people didn't think Sauce was going to be the guy that he was coming out immediately, right? So I think this team was ready now if everybody was healthy and we had at least a really good quarterback in there.
Yeah, and look, I mean, to your point, yeah, we might have. We certainly would have had the winning record. I don't know if we would have lost only 2 or 3 games with Mike at the helm, but even notwithstanding, I mean, his last 2 games actually were pretty good. I mean, you look at them on paper, he was good. We graded him out on this show a couple of times, and we were into the B's and low A's on both of those games against Minnesota and Buffalo, regardless of the losses. And Johnny's mentioned it a million times. If he was in at least for that second Patriots game, and from then on, we'd be good. And if he hadn't gotten hurt, personally, I think we would have won both the Detroit game and the Jacksonville game easily, certainly. But yeah, let's dissect. Zach was the man who was on the field last night. I mean, we got to go through this. We got to go through the motions here, and we got to talk about it. A lot at stake. Let's just start with this. Would you have rather seen Zach out there or Flacco out there just to start the game? Streveler notwithstanding, because I think we were all excited that he came in, and we're going to talk about him in a second. Who would you have wanted to start with, Zach or Flacco? Johnny?
Neither.
Neither. Okay.
Well, if
the lesser of two evils here. Yeah.
If Zach Wilson starting the game last night results in Zach Wilson not playing football for the Jets anymore, then in retrospect, I would rather have Zach Wilson play and, have the Jets make that decision that they're done with him. If Joe Flacco winning the game and leading the Jets to a potential playoff spot meant that Zach Wilson was going to be the starting quarterback in 2023, then I would rather that Joe Flacco not play last night. I think it really all comes down to what do the Jets do administratively, organizationally after this game in regard to Zach Wilson. If they refuse to acknowledge what Zach Wilson showed on the field yesterday and continue to see him as the future of this team, then it's not just Zach Wilson. It's a problem with the coach. It's a problem with everybody, but it really is a problem with Robert Saleh.
Yeah, and agreed. Personally, and you really hit on the point there. I would have liked to have seen Zach in the game to start. First of all, Flacco, at this point, please, let's not even think that he should be suiting up on a Sunday, whatever it was. It was exciting to see Streveler. It was exciting that they usurped Flacco and run right to him when the time was unfortunately about a quarter to half too late, and we could talk about that if you'd like. But really, you brought up what the important thing was. Again, this is all about looking at Zach and is he the guy? That's what this year was supposed to be about. Obviously, all these kids turned out to be a lot better than we all thought coming in pretty early. They were in contention, still in contention, but what do we have in Zach? And you had to have that final game, and you probably had to have that nail in the coffin game last night for a lot of fans who might have still been holding on to this. But if the organization is smart, we're going to move on from Zach, especially after last night's performance and especially with the fact that you benched him even before the game was over. This was prime time. Put up 3 points, didn't show. The kid couldn't move the ball. Italy?
I think you should have gone with if White wasn't available. Don't go with Flacco. Yes, go with Zach. It's kind of like you have no choice, because if I would have put like Wilson in for two quarters, and then if that didn't go well, make that decision halftime and put Streveler in, not Flacco, because you could see the spark that Streveler did have for that one to two plays. So I agree with Johnny.
Johnny, are you happy that it's over? I mean, are you feeling good that hey, at least everybody else got to see this, especially in prime time? Zach is just not the guy. I feel like there's a sense of relief from your side of the box over there.
I think relief. I think relief is not an inaccurate word. I wouldn't say that I'm happy. I would say that I'm not miserable. I'm not tortured by Zach Wilson anymore. But again, there remains a question as to what's going to happen. We won't know, and we probably won't know what's going to happen in the Seattle game a week from Sunday till next week sometime. And from between now and that moment when the starting quarterback is announced, there is the potential that my misery will return. But I do want to speak a little bit about the deflation that you mentioned. It wasn't just that Zach Wilson played like he did, and everything went out of the team and the fans and so forth from a positive standpoint. After the second Patriots game, Garrett Wilson came out and made comments about Zach Wilson, that there were problems not just on the football field on game day, but also in practice and so forth. Yesterday after the game, we heard from Sauce Gardner, and I'm quoting him here. He said, "I don't even know what to say. I was extremely confident. I don't know what happened." And I mention that because Sauce Gardner might be the best player on the Jets. If not, he's tied. And he's certainly one of the best football players in the league, and he's a rookie. And he's never known losing. He's never known losing in any context. He's certainly never known losing in the Jets fashion, and he's never experienced a loss like he did last night. And, I go back to the 1996 Rich Kotite Jets. You would have players like Hugh Douglas, Ray Mickens, Adrian Morrell, quality football players, starters in this league, Keyshawn Johnson as a rookie, that after the game, they just had this shell-shocked look on their face. Like they could not believe that they were losing the way they were losing because of their inept coach. And I saw that and I read that from Sauce Gardner after the game last night. And it's something that you and I have discussed throughout this season, that Zach Wilson is not just losing games for the Jets. He's not just hurting his own case as a football player in the league. He's potentially undermining the confidence and the ability to play of his teammates. And I think that is that's just that has to end. And if the coach doesn't end it and it continues in Seattle, then the coach really has to go.
Yeah, strong words. Although, again, not so sure about Saleh going, or if he has to go, or what these last two games will show for us. But to your point, and let's really jump into this for a second. Zach, that is what it comes down to. Is this notion of confidence of the team? The defense, for the most part, was up for this game. I know it doesn't look like it. I know the quick reaction to it is no, they weren't, but they were on brand. That's the reality. If you go back and you look at this, they give up 18 points a game. That's basically what they gave up. Okay, and sorry, I'm just looking at some of the things that are coming in here. I'm a little distracted. But that's ultimately what they gave up, right? I mean, was essentially the 19 points a game, and one of them was on a Garrett Wilson fumble that, again, just led to a field goal. So really, the bend, don't break mentality was there. They gave up a couple of drives. They're having a tough time in the running game. We really need that run stuffer in the middle, blah, blah, blah. But going back to Zach for a second, this game was lost before it was even started because there's that confidence level you're talking about. The guys on that side of the ball, the offensive side of the ball, was a question. And everybody who's still an apologist for Zach is saying it's the offensive line, and the offensive line is Swiss cheese, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. But that's not the case. That's really not the case. The reality is they're just deflated, okay? I'm going to add something to stream here. I mean, let's all take a quick look. I don't know if you saw Zach's okay? But this, gosh. This is a big thing. This is big news. He got 9 scooters for these guys. And you would otherwise think, well, that's pretty cool. But the reality is, if you take a step back for a second, you're thinking, you know what? This is something a kid would get. This is a kid gift to other guys, right? You're giving a 38-year-old Dwayne Brown a scooter, and what's he thinking about when he sees this? He's like, now I got to store it. Now I got to get insurance. Now I got to pay for that. This is the type of stuff that just doesn't necessarily play. This is an apologist type gift. Take a look, because on the other side of the fence, still in the AFC East, also scooters given by a winning football organization. But look at the difference in what you've got there. You've got the Bills insignia on there. You've got their actual numbers on the bottom. You've got something that was fun and cool. Go back and look what Zach gave again. Just all white. There's nothing there. There's no Jets. There's no team. There's no unity. There's nothing that we're looking at here. Johnny, you mentioned that the team hates Zach. You've mentioned that previously. Again, I don't know if they hate him. That's a strong word. But at this point, you can tell that they definitely don't like him. As soon as Streveler got in that game, as soon as he came in, pumped up, he's running, he's moving, you can move the ball, totally different. And even Zonovan Knight was running the ball. They just don't want to play for Zach. That's a problem. Italy?
I think people are getting sick and tired of him. I don't know about hate him though. I think they stand with him, but I don't think that they hate him as a person. Because here's the thing: when you look at those scooters, right? I don't think the offensive line deserves the scooters anyway. But overall, I don't think that they hate him. I think they flourish on Mike White more because they saw what he could do. You've seen what Zach Wilson has done in the offseason. You've seen what he did at the end of the season last year. You've seen what he did in OTAs. You see what he's done with that, United States travel, right? He was doing all the right things, building all this chemistry. He even brought him out to his hometown. He did all the right things, but it's going to come to a point where if you're not producing on the field, that's going to strain a locker room. And I think that's what happened. I think they still like him as a person, just maybe not as their quarterback.
Johnny, you still feel that way? Because I said that same thing last week. I think they still respect him and like him as a person, but they can't get behind him.
Yeah, let's stipulate that they don't hate him. They hate playing with him. I think we can all agree on that. And I think that's what's ultimately most important.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And that goes back to Mike White. If he's available next week, would love to see him back on the field. And this takes a lot of pressure off of him right now. Actually, you could say it's a lot more pressure because Johnny in a second.
Italy Jet, you don't have a medical degree, do you? Can you clear Mike White?
Can I clear Mike White 10 days from now? No, I don't, but I wish I could. I'd be the 11th doctor.
I could have been his 11th option he went to. And
yeah, no doubt about it.
Probably couldn't clear him.
I would rubber stamp that. I would get it notarized, and I'd backdate it.
Yeah.
No problem. But, the reality is here he comes, a lot less pressure because you don't have – you saw what Strebler could do, and it was fun. It was exciting to see him in the game, but at the same time, obviously he's not your starting quarterback and who you want in there. Flacco is out of the picture now. Wilson, even though Saleh didn't call it a benching, he got benched.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Right, and now you've got Mike White without the pressure. He can go in there and just play football. Nobody's looking over his shoulder. Hopefully that's what we do. Johnny, do you think – let's just assume 10 days from now he is – healthy enough, or 9 days from now, he's healthy enough to get out on that field. Do you expect to see him there?
I have no idea whether we'll see him there, but if we do see him there, I think Mike White is impervious to pressure, and I think that that's one of the major reasons that his teammates love him. He's the coolest dude in the room, and if you look at Mike White, you'd never know that just looking at him. That makes him all the cooler.
Yeah. All right, so break down for us, if he does come in the game, break down for us the path to the playoffs, if you don't mind.
Well, there's a number of permutations by which the Jets can make the playoffs. I think that the most likely, and I say as a disclaimer right off the bat, that it's not likely, it's probably not going to happen, but the most likely path that could happen, as far as I can tell, is the Jets need to win against the Seahawks. If they lose the Seahawks, then they're almost completely eliminated from the playoffs. But if the Jets beat the Seahawks next week, if the Dolphins lose one of their next two games, either to the Packers or the Patriots, if the Patriots lose two of their last three games, which I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, are against the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Bengals, and then if the Raiders do not run the table, if they lose one of their last three games, and then the Jets would be set up to play the Dolphins at Landshark Stadium Week 18 for the final AFC wildcard spot. The numbers that are telling me is that even if the Jaguars run the table and win the AFC South, and the Titans finish tied with the Jets, then the Jets would hold the tiebreakers against the Titans. The Jets would also hold the tiebreakers against the Steelers if the Steelers run the table. The Jets would hold the tiebreaker against the Browns if they tie with the Jets, because the Jets are 1-0 against the Browns this season. So those things are, it's not Martians landing on the earth. It's like, I don't know, it's maybe enjoying the music of Yoko Ono. It's almost certainly not going to happen, but it could happen.
30 minutes of screaming into a microphone, and it very well could happen. I'm saying Yoko Ono. I think she's got one album. That's basically what it is. It very well could happen, and you never know. You've seen it in the NFL before. People sneak in. All these teams have, it happens year after year. There's a team that sneaks in. The Jets could still ultimately do it. Italy. Let's talk about Mike White yet again. Do you want to see him here next year, or are there some free agents on your Christmas list that you'd rather have on our side of the ball there?
I don't want any free agent, honestly. The options that we have, in the free agency, I don't really want either one of them. I don't even want any of the draft picks. But if I had to pick someone, which I know the Jets should get, it would either be Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo. And also, I think it's a long shot, but if you can get Lamar Jackson because of Joe D's history with Lamar in the Ravens organization, that'd be good too. Jimmy G would be good because he knows the system. But Derek Carr, he's been a long time in this league, and he's probably going to be a little bit better than some of these guys like Brissett and Minshew. But overall, yes, I would sign Mike White next year. Have a quarterback competition. You just put Flacco out and replace one of them in there. I think JD and Saleh deserve to go after another quarterback, but because of what they've done overall, especially JD in the organization. But overall, that's what I'm thinking.
All right, Johnny, hold on 1 second, because we're going to get to you, and I want you to have the last word on this. I'm going to jump in on what you said there. and kind of reiterate where I'm at with this. Lamar, throw all the money in the world at him. I would like to have him, and I think we're set up with success to have a guy like that. If you want to give him the 4 or 5 year contract and you want to get close to $50 million and the incentives that he's looking for, I think it's worth it. After that, yeah, I get a little question about who else we bring in. White, I'm a big fan of. I want to back Mike White. The problem with him, as we know, forget the mobility, because I think it's actually there in the system if you need to roll him out and run a few plays. The problem is where he stands in the pocket. He's ultimately going to get hurt. He is tough. He wants to take the hit. And unfortunately, when you got guys like Matt Milano, in the AFC East or whoever else is coming at you, you're going to get hurt, and that's going to hurt you. So you better have a good backup if you're going to do that. Who else is on the docket? Daniel Jones, surprisingly, wouldn't have to travel too far, and I think he actually is a good option. I know a lot of fans are going to be mad at me about that because but he's an option, and he's had a very good year. Jimmy G, don't want to see him. Got no interest. He is not. I mean, much like Mike White, to me, every single year he gets hurt. You're lucky if he only misses 1 game a year. You're looking at 8+ for the most part. He's on the other side of 30. Everybody else on the list, forget about. I'm not interested. The problem with Carr, and everybody should not forget this, he's not available. He's not a free agent. So everybody talks about, hey, the Raiders just want to move off from him.
It's like Rodgers, too. Everyone talks about Rodgers, too, but that's not happening.
Yeah, you got to trade for him. You got to make the money work. You got to do all these things. And first of all, you probably still ultimately have to get rid of Zach. He's a lot of dead money next year. Trade him for the 6th pick or even the conditional 7th and eat 70 or 80% of his salary if you had to. You have the room, to your credit. JD, did the room to take him on. And if we have to have some dead cap money against him and trade him, do it, right? Just take that 1 bad year on it, and he's off the books pretty quickly after that. Johnny, we're saving the best for last year in the QB conversation. Your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I would re-sign Mike White, and I do like the idea of Gardner Minshew backing up Mike White. Gardner Minshew has established himself as a premier backup in the National Football League, and I would be very confident that if Mike White was out for any kind of any period of time, certainly an extended period of time where he'd miss games, that Gardner Minshew can come in and be a serviceable leader of the Jets team. I just want to add real quick, parenthetically, to my breakdown of the Jets' path to the playoffs. People might be wondering, well, what about the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Chargers? I'm just stipulating that those 3 teams will make the playoffs as the 1st and 2nd wild card, and one of them will win the AFC North. So I'm just focusing on the final wild card spot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the Chargers, and we've talked about them before, ultimately they have the roster, deservedly so, to make the playoffs. And before the season even began, they were, talked about as a Super Bowl team. And by the way, these things happen in the NFL as well. They're going to get hot, and when they go into the playoffs, people are going to talk about them and making that run, kind of like Cincinnati did last year. Cincinnati definitely deserves it. Well, you look at the ones with the quarterbacks, right? You look at Burrow, you look at Lamar when he comes back, and he'll probably be back healthy, not this week, but next. And you look at Justin Herbert, who is fantastic. And now you look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the guy is good. You look at what he did last night. He looked pretty good. Not, again, amazing, but nobody looks amazing against the Jets defense. But he found Evan Ingram a number of times. He exposed the weaknesses where he would in the right parts of the field on the safety, and he ran a lot of short, quick passes that worked. So, damn, what a miss on him. We could have had that guy, right? The one time you win 2 games a year, and you're the one time you don't get the number 1 pick.
I'm not going to say the name. I'm done saying the name.
You're done saying the name. I'm glad we're not talking about it. Okay. Moving on, let's just talk about the other needs. We might as well look to the future a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about what else we want. I mean, again, quarterback notwithstanding, what's everybody feeling moving into next year? I want to kind of hear the top 3 or 4 needs. Let's start with Johnny this time.
Well, I mean, reiterating to an extent what I said earlier, if the Jets lie down like dogs against Seattle and Miami the next 2 weeks, then I want Sean Payton next year. If the Jets show up to play and the Jets, win those 2 games and play like football players, then Robert Saleh has established that he's not the problem. Beyond that, the offensive line's got to be bolstered up. It's whoever we have at quarterback, the offensive line is just not doing that person any favors.
Yeah. Okay. Italy.
Before I talk about that, I think Mike White, I would love to have Mike White back, but I think he's got to work on his tell. People know what he's going to do when he's in the pocket. He focuses on that one person, doesn't spread out his vision. I think he needs to work on that, and I think he will be fine because you can tell some of these guys when they lock in on him, it's like, oh, he's going to go over there. Like you just know. So that's number 1. Number 2, the quarterback position, the O-line, and I'm even going to put the linebacker and safety position because I don't want Joyner here anymore. Whitehead, you just don't know what's going to happen. And the linebacker position, I don't know who's going to stay and who's going to go. So you got to figure out, because we have a lot of 1-year deals next year. It's a very up and down year because some of these contracts have outs, and we have to sign Quinnen and stuff. And Thomas is free agent, Rankins is too. So it's like we got to figure that out. We got to figure out what's going to happen when it comes to those guys, and also, like Johnny said, O-line and QB position for me.
No doubt. Yeah, I think it's interesting because of where we are now coming up in this draft. We don't have, a number of picks in any of the rounds anymore. We're just one to one kind of thing, and assuming, I don't want to be the pessimist, but assuming we don't make the playoffs, we're going to have somewhere in that 14 to 18th pick, right? I'd like to see the first one on a run stuffer. And I think that that's the biggest need at this point. Right in the middle of the field, right next to Quinnen. And again, Sheldon's had a nice year, but if you had a real technique guy sitting down there, a 2 or 3 down player who could stop the run, you really got something, because Salah's done such a good job putting together in place the pass rushers, and I think and putting the pressure on the quarterback and how they're rotating in and out. And certainly our cover guys were covered there for quite some time. Safety's notwithstanding, because that's the next position in need, in my opinion. If you get into the second round, you can find a good safety there, and then take the lineman, right? Take another guard, take another center, take a guy who can kind of play all those positions, and that would be nice. But those are your real 4, and I agree with you there on the linebacker position. But it's an interesting one. I mean, Quincy Williams, the boomer bust, but he's getting better every week. He's not just the boomer bust guy. He's not just the big hitter. He's playing the position a lot better, and I saw some really good coverage out of him last night. CJ, Pro Bowler again, right? And you're tied to him pretty much the way you extended his contract this year, and he's got a couple good years left. Great years, potentially. He's a Pro Bowler. I mean, some people are saying, maybe he shouldn't have been the one guy chosen, and if he wasn't,
or injury prone,
Yeah, or injury prone. But I mean, he's playing at a super high level, and obviously I'd love to see Quan back. He was cheap, and if you paid him a little bit more, that would be fine. But yeah, we'll see what else is on the market. But yeah, we do need that O-line depth, no doubt. But next year is going to be a very
Dawson Knox is definitely going to send him a Christmas card. That's for sure.
Damn sure. But yeah, I mean, you're going to see some O-line guys back, and I'm going to bring up a name that Johnny is going to send Johnny and Tizzy. But the NFL surprises you in a lot of ways, right? You might week 7, 8, or 9 on an injury next week. You might see Becton at right tackle somehow playing. It wouldn't surprise me all of a sudden if he was a guy, and then you're talking about him again, and you're excited by the O-line because you got an absolute massive mauler on that side of the field. These things happen, and Max Mitchell's going to be stronger next year and better, and hopefully he comes back better. I don't know if you re-sign Herbert, but you got to get
him. Becton will be announced as the producer of NYJ Ground Crew before he will play another down for the New York Jets. And seeing Brendan Sheriff play for the Jaguars last night, he was signed off of the Washington team in the offseason by the Jaguars. Obviously, he was taken 1 pick ahead of Jamal Adams in the 2017 draft. It's not just through the draft that we can bolster up the offensive line. And I would have to say that I don't know why Brendan Sheriff or if he was investigated by Joe Douglas, but he would have definitely improved the Jets team this year. So if there's another player on the O-line position with that level of talent that's a free agent, that's got to be investigated as well.
Tunzel. I want Tunzel from the Texans. I think that would be a great pick. I think that would be a good pick.
I don't know what he would cost, but that would obviously be amazing. Putting him at Dwayne Brown, you'd have to basically say we're done with Dwayne, which
I think he's going to retire, though, in my personal opinion.
You think so? You think
he's playing with one arm. I mean, he's got to get surgery eventually, and then with Fant, I think he's going to be a free agent. He's playing with one leg, so and I don't think he's like the way his role has been going back and forth from injuries and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's just the way I think about it.
That'd be amazing. I mean, if you can get Tunsil and secure that left side of the line, and Max Mitchell comes back, usually in the second year when you see guys like that who had a nice rookie year and he turned out to be a lot stronger than everybody thought, he's going to be a lot even stronger, because that's all you're going to work on in the offseason is just get him where he needs to be. Because to play the tackle position, you got to be stronger than the guard, certainly. But when you get AVT back on that line, totally different. The one real weak link, unfortunately, is Laken Tomlinson. To your point, Johnny, yeah, I mean, we did kick the tires on him for sure. He signed with Jacksonville in about a minute as soon as that free agency market opened up. But I think we were talking about him and wanted him. Tomlinson was supposed to be this great guy. He just hasn't panned out. But, and it happens a lot with free agents, the positive, the optimism is oftentimes you see that second year, they're a lot better. Johnny?
Well, I can't dispute that.
Yeah. Well, guys, Italy, I know you don't have much time with us today. We're actually upon our 30-minute mark. I mean, we can all talk Jets football forever, but, this is an interesting one. You can see in my background today, I've got the black on the green. And because I didn't want to wave the white flag. I didn't want to put the white there. I just put it on my white shirt. It's a little contrast on this. And it's not a sad day. This isn't a sad day in Jets history where, The Lions game was sad. That loss was crushing. Last night was just disappointing that we went on national TV and showed up same old Jets. That's unfortunately what the look was for a lot of people who otherwise don't follow this team like we do. But that's okay. We're trending in the right direction. There's still opportunity to end 500 this year or above 500 this year. There's still opportunity to make the playoffs. Let's see if we can make it. I agree. Let's hear some parting words, Johnny. Your last thought.
Yeah, I agree with Italy Jet. If Mike White had been the starter from the year, that it's certainly arguable that the Jets would have won both Patriots games, the Lions game and the Jaguars game. That puts them, I believe, at 11-4 rather than 7-8. And it's a whole different conversation that we're having today about the quarterback and about the coach and about the team and about the playoffs.
Italy.
I think next year and even this year, we are ahead of the rebuild. You can tell from the defense and from what we have done on offense. We got the weapons. In my mind, we have some of the best depth in the National Football League, and a lot of people don't. But you can tell the injuries have stockpiled us, and things were just not being waived with the quarterback position. But I still think that this team is still heading in the right direction.
No doubt. Well, can't thank you enough for joining us today. At Italy_Jet, at everything NYJ. You've been incredible. This was awesome. We'll absolutely have you back. We appreciate it. For Johnny Jets, I myself am your host and crew chief, A.M. Pfeffer. This has been NYJ Ground Crew, Flight Plan Friday. We've got some time for the next Jet game. We got a good 10 days to lick our wounds and see what's going on. We'll just watch and wait and see what happens this weekend. But we will be here next Tuesday for a Tarmac Tuesday. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. Appreciate all of you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Arrivederci, Jets Universe.